Around 1800, an architectural style emerged that may have had a later influence on the Resthaven Barn design. Grand residences were connected to symmetrical wings that contained kitchens, stables, and carriage houses. This Palladian style of architecture strongly influenced Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. Franklin King was a professor of agricultural physics, and around 1890 he designed the first round silo. He was concerned with barn ventilation and believed that cupolas were an effective means to vent the barn. The 25-acre farm group included pastures, vegetable gardens, an elaborate hen house, a caretaker's cottage, and a nursery stocked with trees and shrubs brought from George Washington's home, Mount Vernon. Mary Emory dedicated this farm group to the memory of her late husband, Thomas J. Emory. It was to provide for the needs of retired workers and enable the average man to spend the evening of his life on a little farm. The altruistic dream of Mary Emory was short-lived. Operations lasted less than 2 decades. During that brief period, the Lindner Quality Milk Company joined the operation, and the young boys that diligently helped their father caught hold of Mary Emory's dream. They eventually became highly successful businessmen who have given unselfishly to make life better for others. Robert Lindner, owner of United Dairy Farmers, shares some of his boyhood memories.
Hi, I'm Bob Lindner, and I would like to share some boyhood memories of this area. And I'll take you back 70 years ago, 1933, 1934, when my family, my dad, Carl Lindner Sr., leased this little building right here that says tax office on it. We leased that from the village of Mariemont and operated a small milk plant. We had a couple of milk routes. Most of the milk was home delivered in those days, and we had a couple of milk routes. We operated from this small building here. The farm itself was built earlier, but they supplied milk and cream and I think cottage cheese to the village of Mariemont, and the cows were right next to us here in this building right behind me. That's where the cattle were, and then the silo you can see extending up beyond me overhead. That was where they would put up corn silage and to feed the cattle in the winter time. In '35, I would get out of Withrow High School early. I was a sophomore at the time, and would get out about noon and come out and pasteurize and bottle the milk in this small building to the right of me. In that building, there was just a small pasteurizer, I think 90 gallon, which is very small in today's standards. And there was a little surface milk cooler and a little hand bottle filler. And back in the corner there was a submerged tank of water that we would put ice in to refrigerate the water, and then we would pump that cold water through the surface milk cooler and cool the milk after it was pasteurized. We stored the milk there overnight, and then early in the morning my dad, Carl Lindner Sr., and Carl Lindner Jr. Would come over and with our little milk trucks, and they would deliver this milk in Norwood, and later we were delivering in Silverton and some in Hyde Park, and we operated this little dairy until about 36 or 37. Just entered into the processing room of this little milk plant, and it's even smaller than I thought it was. This is a complete room for the pasteurizer. The small pasteurizer sat in the corner there, and the milk cooler was overhead, the bottle filler about in this area, and then that submerged milk tank, or water tank, was just below, probably about the depth of those filing cases, maybe a little deeper. Through this door is where the little milk room was, our ice box, and the boiler room was just outside of the door. We had a small steam boiler there that we used to heat, pasteurize the milk, and to make hot water to wash the equipment. And it was very simple, and it's hard to believe that you could make a living on that small amount of milk in those days, selling it home delivery to support a family. But we were able to do it, and kind of grew and evolved into this is kind of the predecessor of United Dairy Farmers. This is the first time I've been in this little building here that was the dairy operation in many, many years. I can't remember how long, but I can't believe how small it was. This little area, the milk box I'm talking about, evidently protruded from here into that other room there, and then we had a little power brush. We washed the milk bottles and sterilized them in 3 tanks on this side, but I just can't believe how small of an area that this is that we produced that milk. In the hallway there, we had a little steam boiler that we used to heat the milk and wash equipment, and then this passageway leads to the dairy barn, which was close by, and that's how I heard the cow noises that morning. I thought this little boy's father was trying to scare me, but all of these things were not in at this time, the lockers and the heating equipment. This room has been renovated some, and with all of this equipment. I'll take you back to the dairy barn now. This area right, this doorway here, was the entry into the cattle barn. This cattle barn is just beyond here. This is the old cattle barn here from just beyond a little bit there. None of this was in here. There was a row of cow stanchions right down the middle, and the cattle rear feet would be on the edge there, and the manure would go in the trough there and could be cleaned and washed easily. This doorway here is new, but there was a trough on this side too, so at one time, and there was the cows were facing one another with a stanchion in the middle, and they were all hand milked at the time. The floor here is, as it actually was, it's recessed 5-6 inches there, where the rear end of the cow would be extending that way. The feed was here, and the manure would go in there where it could be easily washed. They had a golden Guernsey dairy herd at that time, and there was very rich milk. This was before homogenization too, and it was all cream lined. The cream would all rise to the top, and it was a beautiful dairy herd. And the milk in those early days, prior to our leasing the property, was bottled here in the little plant and used in the hotel, and possibly some of it was maybe sold from here too. I don't know that, but I know it was used to supply the Mariemont Hotel.
I love this. This is a good part up here. Why don't you get up here? Has Brad ever seen this?
No.
Tell Brad, this is the pretty part of it.
Side, I don't know whether there's any of the old pulleys there or not. Yeah, this is pretty much the way it was 70 years ago up here.